The Oklahoma City Thunder are moving on to the Western Conference Finals. They'll play the Minnesota Timberwolves on Tuesday. But as this series went on, the Nuggets appeared to be outmanned by the Thunder, and they capitalized big time today with a blowout victory in Game 7. So, Andrew, taking a bird's eye view of this series and these teams, is there any concern for the Thunder that this went 7 games?
Yeah, I think that the Thunder, if they play this exact same series versus the Timberwolves, I don't know that they're going to win that series just because of the fact that if you look at the Nuggets from top to bottom, is this a championship winning team? Yes, in the past, but as currently constructed, they really only go a max of 6 or 7 deep, which is fine for the playoffs. But when your 6 or 7 include 3 people that were either hurt or like had a sickness at some point in the series, and I understand those were towards the end of the series for Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, but still those injuries and those illnesses kind of still do matter. And Jamal Murray played through it in Game 6, had a very good game, but this game, if it you can say what you want, is it real, is it not real, but I think that like he obviously just wasn't playing to his capabilities in this series, and the fact that you got maybe the B minus version of the Nuggets and they still forced you to Game 7 has to be a little bit concerning.
Yeah, I think there's some slight concern, but I mean, I would slightly push back too. I think some of this is also just part of getting over the hump. And as you mentioned, some of those ailments, such as the Michael Porter Jr. injury, the Aaron Gordon injury, and what have you, kind of did progress as the series went on. And it was just always going to be that the Nuggets wanted to get out of this series almost, it feels like, as soon as possible. They needed some rest and everything like that. I think this Thunder team is a very talented team. The Minnesota Timberwolves, I think, you're going to have to play better probably in this series, or in that series than you did in this series. But I feel like this Thunder team is just the ceiling is there. They haven't really tapped into it as much, and there's got to be something to be said for beating a team that has that championship pedigree. I get it. They fired their coach, they fired their GM, 3 games left in the season or whatever it was, and some of their players weren't as sharp. They only went 6 deep, and it felt like in this game they only had like 4 usable players. But this Thunder team took care of business when they needed to. I like my chances with SGA. I felt like he played well in this series. And if Jalen Williams could be more consistent, I mean, this is, in my opinion, is the best team left in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that for the most part, this Thunder team definitely has the highest ceiling. It's just getting over that hump, I guess, if you want to call it that. And the Timberwolves are also a young team, so will they have any problems with that as well? Obviously, Anthony Edwards is in the infancy of his career, but yeah, no, I just I thought that like they maybe played down to the competition for a lack of better words, because the Nuggets are a really good team. It's just like how long can you have guys play in your starting lineup play consistently 35 plus minutes and it pick up injuries and just in general not be their full like playing to their full capabilities. Even Jokic didn't have the greatest series. Like by his standards, obviously he had some really good games, but like he had some games where it just felt like more of a struggle than it should have been. And if you look at the stat lines, like it'll tell you something different. But if you actually watch those games like Jokic definitely wasn't playing to his like true capabilities, and that whole Nuggets team just felt like they were a step slower than they should have been. So in general, it just felt like this Nuggets team shouldn't have been able to push this current iteration of a almost 70 win team to 7 games.
Oh man, I don't know if I can like get on that boat. I think it's more so closer to like nitpicking than anything else. I get it. Like it feels like this team shouldn't have pushed the Thunder to 7 games, but I really just feel like we might be overlooking just how good this Nuggets team was, even despite only going 6 deep. Like I always felt like this team had a bit of an edge just based off of the experience that they had, and I would say Jokic's standards are extremely high, but he still played really well in this series. And I felt like they did have enough. And I think it's more credit to the Nuggets that they did even have enough with everything that went on to beat this Thunder team. And sometimes you might play a team in the semifinals that gives you your best run. This might be the closest series the rest of the way for the Thunder. I'm not picking them exact. Well, honestly, I would say that they are probably the championship favorites in my opinion, going the rest of the way. But I'm not outwardly going to say like, oh, that they're unbeatable. But sometimes that is the case, and this could be the closest series that they do have against any of the other teams. Just we've seen this in years past, where it just feels like sometimes you have to get through a juggernaut or a team with an edge and a team with a ton of playoff experience and power through. I could argue maybe in the same vein that the Thunder just didn't play well in a sense that they weren't really challenged by the Grizzlies. The Nuggets went in and challenged them, and then you had some really, really bad games from like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren before Game 7. I think I saw that he was averaging like 14 and like 10 or 11 points for this series. And while they go deep, maybe they didn't play as well as maybe they could have also. And in my opinion, I take that as more so. I think that this team can play well, and I'm less concerned. And I think that the Nuggets are also very, very good.
Yeah, I hear you're saying, and I want to give my own pushbacks to like I just like Jokic having a good series. Like I feel like if you put it on paper, 28, 13 and 6 is definitely not a bad series for anyone at any time, any place. But like he had three separate games where he had 20 or less points, which is not to the Jokic standard. And then when he did go off, he had really good games, but those games end up mattering all. Let's see, all two of those three games they lost, and in the other game it felt like it was more the Jamal Murray game that like really solved them through. So I just don't know if like he did enough, and if he did, like if in two of those games he played, I mean the first game got like out of hand, but like this game it just felt like he needed to be able to dominate, especially with the fact that they were sending Alex Caruso on him, and it felt like in the series, and just maybe these playoffs in general, like in the Clippers series, he averaged 24, 10, like he averaged a 24-point triple double, but still, like that's still like you want him to elevate a little bit more in the playoffs. And I just felt like if you watched Jokic this playoff run, it just didn't feel like he played up to the standard that he could play to. And I don't know. I don't think that he was just his best version of himself.
So I'll give you that. I think we've seen better versions of Jokic, but I was somebody who wasn't a fan of the Clippers, and I was very impressed with the way that series went on their side of things. And sometimes you do just get challenged like that. And then I think this Thunder series was more so just the fact that as the series went on, you're losing Michael Porter Jr., you're losing, or their effectiveness. You're losing Aaron Gordon, and it does just become harder for him to facilitate, to be able to play make, and to be able to do those things on the basketball court that we're so used to him doing. I don't know what exactly Jamal Murray's status for this series kind of was with his sickness and everything, but he seemed to be kind of, I'm grading him on the same scale that he was pretty much just fine, but especially whenever I'm trying to assess Jokic. But I just feel like some of these things definitely should be taken into account. And then also at the same time, I know two of these games that you're mentioning are blowouts. So like the Thunder, in the Thunder series, game 2 was over at halftime because they shot like 80+% from the floor, and then this game was just the turnovers and everything. And the Nuggets were more blowout prone in this series, in my opinion. So it could be swaying some of those stats. But I get what you're trying to say, but at the same time, I think that some of these standards might be even too high for any basketball player to reach.
Yeah, and maybe just this game specifically was the game that you wanted him to show up and show out the most. And then in that first half, when things were still close, it felt like he could have taken over that game a little bit more, especially given the fact that obviously Crusoe is very athletic, but you're having somebody who's 6'3" guard you on the post. Like, so at some point, you just need to like be calling for the ball and winning that matchup consistently. And he wasn't, and especially not enough towards the end of that first half. This game specifically really ended up coming down to the fact that the Thunder blew them out towards the end of the first half and then continued that into the second half, and then it was just over after that. So I maybe wanted to see a little bit more from him in that sense, but I do like maybe want to like rein myself in a little bit just because of the fact that he didn't have any help really, and then he had to play besides the blowout games, he played 40 minutes in every single one of those games. So he just really, and like again, he wasn't finding like places, he wasn't finding help in a lot of different places. So I want to give him a little bit of slack for that, but it just didn't. And again, this is like on an adjusted scale because I'm like looking at Jokic as the best player in the world right now.
And you know what? I would give that to you if Aaron Gordon just was a factor in this game. Like if he was able to go out there and actually play more than what he had, like 15 minutes in that game, and they weren't impactful, in my opinion. I felt like they were going after him. If he was like himself, and Michael Porter Jr. wasn't dealing with the fact that he couldn't lift his arm above his head, or one of his arms above his head, then I would be able to give that to you, because I felt like this series definitely was attainable for the Nuggets. But that's why I just can't get completely on your side. But I think we agree in some places, we disagree. Let's leave it to this really quick. For the Thunder's perspective, obviously you felt like they probably should have taken care of business more so in this series. And looking ahead to the Timberwolves, what exactly do they need to do or need to improve on specifically so they can go to the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it like probably the X factor in that series is Jalen Williams just like playing consistently. He is the second All Star on that team, and like having an up and down series isn't going to always work for you. So if you're going to be Jalen Williams today, he played amazing, but he has to play like that consistently if this Thunder team wants to win the NBA Finals. And maybe they don't need him to just because of the fact that they run so deep. They're able to win 68 games. Was he playing to hit the best of his capabilities in every single one of those games? Probably not. And they have the people on the bench like Alex Caruso and just in general, their bench runs so deep that they can play well enough even without him playing to like it to him playing to that all-star potential that he has. But I think that if he is playing like if he's playing consistently well, this Thunder team looks at like the best team in the NBA.